Imagine waking up to a world where almost every man is dead. Fathers, brothers, sons gone. What if I told you that such an event actually happened? That thousands of years ago, a war so brutal took place that only 1 out of 20 men survived? This wasn't some medieval conquest or a modern war with guns and bombs. This happened long before history was even written. A war so ancient that its victims were buried beneath the earth for millennia, waiting to be rediscovered. The evidence? Mass graves, shattered skulls, spears buried in ribs, and wounds that scream of violence. But why did it happen? Who fought this war? And why did it wipe out nearly every man? The truth about prehistoric warfare is far more shocking than you think. And by the end of this video, you'll see how this forgotten war may have shaped the way human society evolved. Maybe even the way we think and behave today. Stay with me, because this story is both terrifying and crucial to understanding our own history. For the longest time, people believed that early humans were peaceful hunter-gatherers, living in harmony with nature. You've probably seen those old textbooks. Drawings of cave people sitting around fires, happily cooking meat, or working together to build shelter. But what if I told you that this image is wrong? The real story of early humans is much darker. Yes, they hunted. Yes, they gathered food. But they also fought. And when they fought, it wasn't just a scuffle, it was total war. Today, we're going to uncover the prehistoric war that killed 19 out of 20 men. We'll explore the archaeological evidence that proves early humans were brutal warriors. We'll dive into theories about why these wars happened. And we'll even ask the biggest question of all. Is violence part of human nature? Or did prehistoric people only fight because they had no choice? So, buckle up, because this story will change everything you thought you knew about our ancestors. Chapter 1. The mass graves that told a shocking story. For thousands of years, the evidence of this war lay hidden. It wasn't until archaeologists started uncovering mass graves that the horrifying truth began to emerge. One of the most important discoveries happened in Natick, Kenya. The Natick Massacre, a prehistoric killing field. In 2012, a team of researchers digging near a dry lakebed found something shocking. The remains of an entire group of prehistoric humans, violently killed. This wasn't an accident. The skeletons told a gruesome story. Some had arrowheads embedded in their skulls. Others had fractured ribs and broken limbs, suggesting they were beaten to death. Many had their hands tied, meaning they were executed. The most chilling part? Among the dead, they found women, and even a pregnant woman, stabbed in the belly. This wasn't just a battle. It was a massacre. But Natick was just the beginning. More mass graves, more evidence. As researchers looked deeper, they started finding similar mass graves all over the world. In Germany, a site called Talheim revealed 34 bodies of men, women, and children. They had been lined up and killed, their skulls crushed by blunt weapons. Some were found in positions that suggested they were running away when they were struck down. In France, at a site called Aikenheim, researchers found a burial pit filled with hundreds of bodies, all men. The bones showed severe wounds, evidence of a brutal prehistoric war. Some had been struck multiple times in the head, suggesting the killers made sure they were dead. Everywhere archaeologists looked, they found more and more evidence of prehistoric wars. And the most disturbing pattern? The majority of the victims were men. Chapter 2. Why did prehistoric people go to war? If prehistoric people were just hunter-gatherers, why would they go to war? The answer is simple: survival. But survival isn't just about food. It's about power, land, and control. Here are the 4 biggest reasons why prehistoric humans fought wars. 1. The battle for resources. Prehistoric people didn't have grocery stores. If food ran out, they had 2 choices: starve, steal from another group. Some researchers believe this was the main cause of prehistoric wars. 2. Climate change and migration. Thousands of years ago, the world's climate was constantly shifting. Some areas became unlivable. forcing groups to move into new territories. But when they arrived, they found other humans already living there. The result? Conflict. 3. The desire to control women. This is one of the most controversial theories. Some researchers believe prehistoric wars weren't just about food or land. They were about women. In many of the mass graves, most of the men were killed, but the women were taken. This suggests that these wars were about eliminating rivals and taking their women to ensure survival. For revenge and blood feuds, early humans lived in tight-knit tribes. If one person was killed, their tribe would seek revenge. This led to endless cycles of violence. Some experts believe this is how entire tribes were wiped out. Chapter 3. The brutality of prehistoric warfare. Think prehistoric war was less violent because they didn't have guns? Think again. Stone-tipped arrows could pierce skin just like modern bullets. Sharp obsidian blades could slice through flesh. Heavy wooden clubs could crush skulls in one blow. These weren't random fights. Prehistoric people knew how to kill efficiently, and the evidence shows that when they fought, they didn't leave survivors. Chapter 4. Did prehistoric wars shape human evolution? Could prehistoric wars be the reason humans are the way we are today? Some scientists believe these wars forced humans to form larger groups, which eventually led to cities and nations, created the need for leadership, which led to kings, laws, and governments, made humans more aggressive because only the strongest survived. The big question, are humans naturally violent? Or did these early wars force us to become that way? Let me know what you think in the comments. So, what does all of this mean? The story of the forgotten prehistoric war isn't just about ancient skeletons or battle-scarred bones. It's about who we are as human beings. We often think of war as a modern invention, something that came with kings, empires, and civilizations. But what we've uncovered today proves something chilling. War is older than history itself. Long before humans built cities, long before they wrote laws, and long before they even knew what a nation was, they were already fighting. This means that violence, war, and conflict aren't just things we created. They've been woven into our existence from the very beginning. But does that mean war is inevitable? Not necessarily. Are we destined for violence? Some scientists argue that early humans had no choice but to fight. They didn't have supermarkets to get food or governments to enforce laws. If a rival group stole their resources or attacked them, they had two choices: fight back or be wiped out. But the world we live in today is different. We have governments, diplomacy, and international laws to prevent violence. Unlike our prehistoric ancestors, we don't have to go to war over food, land, or survival, at least not in the same way. Yet, wars still happen. Nations still fight. People still harm each other. So the big question is, are we still carrying the same instincts as our prehistoric ancestors? Do we fight because it's in our nature, or because we haven't yet learned to control our past? What this ancient war tells us about the future. One of the most haunting things about the prehistoric war that killed 19 out of 20 men is what happened afterward. Entire villages disappeared. Some groups went extinct, never to be seen again. The survivors had to start over, forced to rebuild their societies from the ashes of war. That pattern has repeated over and over throughout history. From the fall of ancient civilizations to the world wars of the 20th century, every time humans have fought on a massive scale, societies have collapsed, and survivors have had to pick up the pieces. The question is, will we ever break this cycle? Will we ever evolve past the violent instincts of our prehistoric ancestors? Or are we doomed to repeat the mistakes of the past? Final thought: the power of learning from history. If there's one lesson to take from this forgotten prehistoric war, it's this: understanding our past is the key to shaping our future. By studying history, even the parts that were long buried and forgotten, we can see why humans fought, what led to their destruction, and what we can do differently. Because if history has taught us anything, it's that violence destroys, but knowledge saves. What do you think? Are humans naturally violent? Or can we change? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you found this story as fascinating as I did, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more incredible history stories. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.